Hello and welcome to this Phil But Flies review of Pilot Plus's London Southend Airport add-on for Microsoft Flight Simulator. You join me here on approach to runway 23 at Southend, and I'm starting with an approach to give you a look at the surrounding area and to allow you to gauge the performance of this add-on on my system, which is comprised of an i7-8700K processor, 32GB of RAM and a 1080 Ti graphics card. On the subject of performance, you will notice one or two stutters here and there during the approach and when we look around the airport with the drone. They look worse on the video, but they were present to some extent in the sim. Because there's such a huge variety of systems out there with a whole range of different graphics settings, I wouldn't be overly concerned by these stutters. They're not too bad and you may have a better experience even on a system similar to mine. This was certainly what I found when I reviewed Digital Design's Salzburg, at which others with computers like mine experienced perfectly smooth performance while my system struggled. And now I'll let you watch the landing in peace, and I'll join you again when we're parked up on stand, from where we'll begin our tour of the airport in different weather and lighting conditions.
Retard. Try.
Welcome to Southend. We're parked up here on stand 3, and as you can see there are no jetways at this airport, but we do have ground surfaces available and you can see the air stairs moving into position now. Let's take a look around. And unusually, I'm going to start with the control tower today because it's right there and it looks pretty impressive, doesn't it? So you'll notice we have transparent glass, we've got very nice modelling and texturing, and even when you get really close, the textures look nice and crisp. And the interior modelling on this tower is absolutely fantastic. It really does feel like you're there. I'm also very impressed by the fact that the glass is tinted from both inside and out, which is quite rare on add-on sceneries. At the bottom of the control tower you can see the attention to detail. There are some really nice looking air conditioning units on the roof of this lower part of the building. We've got some weathering both on the sides of the control tower itself and on the roofs, and overall this is one of the most realistic looking towers I've ever seen. And while we're here, it would be rude not to take a quick look at the fencing, which I have to say I'm very impressed by. The mesh and the barbed wire both look very convincing, the fence posts also look pretty good, and there's no flickering that I've discovered so far. The fence looks really good from all around the airport. Moving on to the terminal building now, you'll notice that simply by virtue of its shape, the roof is its standout feature. That is what you see the most of. And fortunately, I'm pleased to say that Pilot Plus have done a really good job with this. The textures are great, nicely reflective, and it's only when you get super close that you notice any blurriness whatsoever. The roof of this covered walkway is really impressive as well. We've got a lot of imperfections on the metal, lots of dents and bits of discoloration, and there's no obvious repetition to the patterns, so again it looks very, very lifelike. You'll see that the outside of it has tinted glass, and if we move inside, you'll notice that the glass retains both its tint and its reflective properties. Behind the walkway, the limited amount of visible glass on the terminal building itself is not transparent, and that's fair enough given how little you'd see of it from an aircraft. It is, however, very nicely textured using PBR materials, and the reflections look very convincing when you get up close. To the south of the terminal we have this administrative building, and again the quality of the modelling and the texturing is absolutely fantastic. Just look how crisp this logo on the side is, and look at the detail in the weathering. Round the front we don't have any transparent glass, but once again we have very convincing opaque window textures which look really good and reflect the light nicely. Continuing west we have this other control tower building. Now I'm not absolutely certain what this is, but if I had to hazard a guess I would say it's perhaps where the ground controllers sit. Once again you can see we have a detailed interior and the quality of the modelling and the texturing is absolutely fantastic. Again, if we go inside you will see that the glass retains its tint and its transparency, and the detail in here is just incredible. Although this is a relatively small airport, there are a huge number of buildings around the perimeter of the apron, and I'm not going to show you every single one of them or you would doze off, but take it from me, they all look absolutely fantastic. Oh, go on then, I'll show you one more. This Stobart Jet Centre hangar is another work of art. It's really, really lovely. Again, very crisp textures, nicely weathered, and as you can see there's a static aircraft sticking out of it. I really like this airport. Aside from the static aircraft in the hangar, there are 4 other static aircraft across the apron, 2 EasyJet and 2 Ryanair. As you know by now, I would really like the option to turn these on or off, but at this scenery there's enough parking that I don't think these will cause anyone an issue. I'm really impressed by the amount of ground clutter included with this scenery. Pilot Plus have done a great job here. We have air stairs, luggage dollies and all sorts of other things scattered around the place, which really makes the airport feel full of life. The landside areas are also very nicely modelled. While we don't have any transparent glass on the front of the terminal, the opaque textures are very, very nice. Moving away from the terminal building itself, you'll notice that we have a lot of other nice features, including the railway station with some trains modelled, static vehicles parked very nicely in the car park, and a lot of the surrounding buildings have been included as well. Just look at the detail on this retail park right next door. While the roadway textures are a little bit on the blurry side, this is more than made up for in my opinion by the sheer volume and quality of modelling on the landside. Just take a look at how crisp these signs are. And the landside detail doesn't stop there. We also have the Holiday Inn, very nicely modelled and textured every bit as well as the airport terminal. The ground textures at this airport are absolutely fantastic. They're nice and crisp, nice and sharp, even when you get down really low. The ground markings look great, they're slightly grubby and they don't stick out or look at all cartoony. You will notice if you look at the Google satellite image that the south and north aprons, where those EasyJet aircraft are parked, were under construction when it was taken. So of course the concrete slabs over there look brighter and newer. But I'm pleased to see that Pilot Plus have modelled this to be future-proof, so we don't have any of that. And they all are of a uniform colour. The taxiway textures are absolutely fantastic as well. The grass looks incredibly realistic. We've got some nice brown patches and we've got a variety of thicknesses and colours, so that's very impressive too. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, the runway. And this too looks incredibly realistic. The markings match the real thing. The amount of rubber around the touchdown zones is about right too. And yeah, overall absolutely no complaints at all about the ground textures. The night lighting at Southend is a bit of a mixed bag in my opinion. I really like the apron lighting. These floodlights create a very realistic glow on the ground and they light up the aircraft parked in front of the terminal very nicely. I also think that the taxiway lighting's really nicely done. I love the green taxiway centerline lights, and the blue edge lights look very realistic as well. You'll also notice that the taxiway signage is nicely lit up. The control tower lighting is absolutely superb. The glass retains its tint at night, and even when you go inside, it still looks tinted, and the whole thing just looks absolutely 100% true to life. A lot of the landside's very nicely lit as well. I'm particularly impressed by the station lighting. Look at the lights on the front of that train lighting up the track ahead of it. Really, really very realistic. The only thing, in fact, that I don't like about the night lighting is the terminal building itself, which is in complete darkness, both landside and airside. Now for me, that's a pretty major oversight. If I'm arriving at an airport after dark, I do want to see some signs of life from within a terminal building, and that's more important to me than a correctly lit railway station. Here's Southend in the rain, and as you can see, the ground textures look absolutely fantastic when they're wet as well. We do of course have a little bit of an issue with the transparent windows popping and not being shrouded in the mist. You can see it a little bit over here with the ground control tower, as I'm calling it. Whether it is or not, I don't know. But in general, I've seen plenty more popping at other airports, and it doesn't look too bad at all. Finally, here's Southend in the snow. I think the apron areas look absolutely fantastic. I love the way the ground markings are partially covered by snow in some places and not in others. It creates a very realistic effect. I'm less keen on the taxiways, which have no snow on them at all, and I know there are issues in this sim with certain surfaces not supporting a covering of snow. But I've seen other airports where they've got around this a little better. I'm also not keen on the transition between the snow-covered apron and the snow-free taxiway, but the grass looks good and the transition between this and the taxiways is much better. The runway has no snow on it at all, and unfortunately once again we have these very harsh transitions between the snow-covered grass and the snow-free runway. This cluster of taxiways here looks particularly odd. As you can see, there's a section that's totally blanketed in snow, while the majority remains entirely snow-free. Now, I'm never entirely sure how much control developers have over the snow in this sim, and how much it's just something that Asobo needs to fix. And I'll leave it at this. I've seen better implementations of snow, but I've also seen some plenty worse. So, what do I think of Pilot Plus's Southend? Overall, I think it's great. By day, it really is one of the most real-looking and realistic-feeling airports I've ever seen. The modelling and texturing is superb, without exception. Every single building looks as if you could reach out and touch it. The ground textures are fantastic, the careful positioning of ground clutter brings life to the place, and the amount of detail in the landside areas has to be seen to be believed. The lack of light from the terminal after dark was a bit of a disappointment for me, but the rest of the night lighting is really very good indeed. The airport looks great in the rain and fair to middling in the snow. So really, you've just got to decide whether the lack of terminal lighting and the suboptimal snow implementation are enough to put you off what is otherwise an exceptionally good airport. If you want my opinion, I don't think it should. I hope you found this review useful. If you have, please click the thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel on your way out. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon here on Filbert Flies. Take care, bye bye.